Well, friends, former Trump lawyer Jenna Ellis has flipped and agreed to cooperate with prosecutors in the Arizona election interference case. And remember, in that case, Donald Trump is an unindicted co-conspirator. Unindicted at the moment. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, maybe, just maybe, former Trump lawyer Jenna Ellis really has seen the light. Recall how back in 2020 she was all in, doing Donald Trump's dirty bidding, trying to help him overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election? Well now, after pleading guilty and flipping down in Georgia, in the RICO prosecution down there, Jenna Ellis has flipped again. She has agreed to cooperate with Arizona state prosecutors in the fake elector election interference case in Arizona. Let's start with the new reporting. This from the Washington Post. Headline, former Trump attorney Jenna Ellis agrees to cooperate in Arizona elector case. And that article begins, Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays reached a cooperation agreement Monday with Jenna Ellis, who was a legal advisor to Donald Trump's 2020 campaign and was one of 18 defendants indicted in April on felony charges relating to alleged efforts to try to subvert President Biden's victory in the state 4 years ago, according to prosecutors. The Attorney General has agreed to drop 9 felony charges against Ellis in exchange for her full cooperation with the investigation into the GOP plan to try to deliver Arizona's 11 electoral votes to Trump instead of the rightful winner, Biden. The deal allows Ellis to avoid potential jail time in exchange for providing prosecutors with evidence that could implicate other defendants. She could provide information about former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani's knowledge of and participation in the elector strategy. According to the agreement, Ellis has also agreed to completely and truthfully testify in any future trials. She will also provide documents and any other material tied to the elector strategy that could help state prosecutors secure verdicts favorable to them in the high-profile case. Quote, this agreement represents a significant step forward in our case, Attorney General Mays said in a statement. Quote, I am grateful to Ms. Ellis for her cooperation with our investigation and prosecution. Her insights are invaluable and will greatly aid the state in proving its case in court. Okay, friends, now let's turn to Jenna Ellis's written cooperation agreement with the Arizona prosecutors. I'm just going to hit a few of the highlights, and then we're going to talk about what it requires her to do, what it means, and why it's a really bad development for folks like Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump. So the agreement is dated August 5th, 2024, hot off the presses, and it is addressed to Jenna Ellis, care of her lawyer, Matthew Brown. Dear Mr. Brown, we previously had a proffer, quote, free talk with your client, Jenna Ellis. Friends, let me pause there. What is a free talk? Well, when we have a defendant, when prosecutors have a defendant they want to talk to see what kind of information, evidence that defendant can bring to the table, so we can assess whether we might want to extend some kind of an offer to that defendant, try to flip them, make them a cooperator, so we can use their testimony against bigger criminal fish. When we have these free talks or proffer sessions, they are typically under a temporary immunity agreement. what is sometimes referred to as queen for a day immunity. And we give the defendant, obviously together with their lawyer, the opportunity to tell us everything they can about the crimes of others, the conduct of others, and about their own crimes, but they have immunity, temporary immunity, so none of what they tell us can be used by the prosecutors against them or really can be used in any way. We couldn't just throw them up on the witness stand later because they told us something in this proffer session, this free talk session under that temporary immunity agreement. So when the prosecutors in this cooperation agreement refer to a proffer session or a free talk with Jenna Ellis, that's what that means. We previously had a proffer free talk with your client, Jenna Ellis, on June 17th, 2024. As part of the free talk agreement, the Attorney General's office had agreed to evaluate in good faith whether cooperation is in the state's, that is the prosecutor's, best interest. In doing so, the Attorney General's office has determined that cooperation is in its best interest. To prevent any misunderstandings and to document its offer of cooperation, the terms of the state's offer are below. This offer must be signed by all the parties. And then I'll summarize some of what is included in this written agreement. Paragraph 1, the state of Arizona will dismiss the currently pending charges against Jenna Ellis. Paragraph 2, Jenna Ellis shall waive the Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination and shall provide truthful information in any and all interviews given to representatives of the Arizona Attorney General's office and shall testify completely and truthfully at any time and any place requested by the Arizona Attorney General's office. And friends, here's the money line, including at any state or federal grand jury proceeding, forfeiture proceeding, bond hearing, pretrial hearing, civil and criminal trial, retrial, or post-trial hearing. Jenna Ellis agrees to answer all questions on direct, cross-examination, and redirect examination truthfully and completely. Friends, why do I say that's the money line? Because in this state court cooperation agreement with Jenna Ellis also pledges, promises, agrees to testify in all federal cases, in all federal proceedings. It feels like something's brewing there, friends, because ordinarily state court prosecutors will include in these kind of cooperation agreements the requirement that the person who's a party to the agreement testify in all state court matters, not federal court matters. Sounds like there was some discussion between state court prosecutors and federal court prosecutors, which is absolutely appropriate, indeed even necessary in cases like this when you have defendants and witnesses in common, right? With state courts prosecuting or using as witnesses the same people that federal prosecutors are using as witnesses or charging as defendants. So this is an important little inclusion in this cooperation agreement that Jenna Ellis said, based on the evidence that I have regarding the crimes of others, yes, I agree to testify in both state court proceedings and in all federal court proceedings. Good development on the accountability front. The cooperation agreement continues. Paragraph 3, all such information and testimony from Jenna Ellis shall be truthful, honest, candid, and complete, with no knowing material false statements or omissions. Such information and testimony shall include all criminal activity known to Jenna Ellis. But just to be sure, here's what the prosecutors go on to include in paragraph 8. Jenna Ellis affirms that her statements to the Arizona Attorney General's office on June 17, 2024, that's at the so-called free talk or proffer session, all of those statements were truthful, honest, candid, and complete, with no knowing material false statements or omissions. But, Lordy, there are tapes. My editorial addition, because that paragraph continues. Jenna Ellis further agrees that the recordings from the June 17, 2024 interview, that is the free talk or proffer session, are complete and accurate. So friends, why is that important? The fact that there was not only a proffer session or a free talk session, but they recorded it. It is on tape. It is now documented. We call that locking it in. Locking in the story or the testimony of a witness so that witness can't back away from that story later or, feign a failure of memory. No, we've got it on tape. That's important because before the prosecutors decided to extend this cooperation agreement to Jenna Ellis, which, let's be clear, is a really advantageous arrangement because the prosecutor said, if you testify fully and truthfully and accurately about the crimes of others, like Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump, you won't be prosecuted. We will dismiss all 9 of the felony charges now pending against you, and you get a pass. The prosecutors would not have entered into that kind of a cooperation agreement unless the information, the evidence that was truthful and accurate and could be corroborated, that was presented by Jenna Ellis, was blockbuster. Because let's be clear, ordinarily, prosecutors like to have folks like Jenna Ellis, defendants who are charged as part of a large criminal conspiracy, they like to have those people plead guilty, take responsibility for their crimes, and then testify about the crimes of others. Because when you give somebody a pass, you can imagine she will be cross-examined when she testifies against Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump, and the others, along the lines of, wait a minute, Miss Ellis. These prosecutors, these Arizona state court prosecutors, gave you a complete pass for 9 felonies that you committed? You're going to say anything they want you to say to keep that sweetheart deal. You will falsely implicate my client in all kinds of crimes. Isn't that so? And of course, that's not so. And witnesses who flip and who are cross-examined that way are prepared by the prosecutors to meet the force of that cross-examination. But, it is not without challenges when you give somebody a pass for their own crimes and then put them on the witness stand to testify about the crimes of others. That's why witnesses like Jenna Ellis must be corroborated in as many ways as possible. Their testimony must be affirmed and supported by other evidence. And I'm quite sure Jenna Ellis, the story she told, the information she provided is fully corroborated, or there's no way the prosecutors would have given her this cooperation agreement. And the fact that it's on tape, that it's locked in, just sort of seals the deal, because that tape could be used in the future in the event Jenna Ellis tried to back away or feign a failure of recollection in the future. And friends, the rest of the language in this cooperation agreement is boilerplate language, standard stuff. So let's go right to the end where Jenna Ellis and her lawyer sign this agreement, and she affirms, I have carefully read the foregoing agreement consisting of 4 pages with 12 numbered paragraphs. I understand each and every provision of this agreement and have discussed each provision thoroughly with my lawyer. I have voluntarily signed this agreement with full knowledge and understanding of its provisions, and I agree to and accept each and every provision of this agreement, including testifying in federal cases, probably my favorite part of this cooperation agreement. So friends, this spells bad news. Bad news for Rudy Giuliani, bad news for the presently unindicted co-conspirator, Donald Trump, stay tuned, and the other dozen or so defendants who were indicted as part of this massive conspiracy to try to, overturn the results of the Arizona state election. Why is it especially bad for Rudy Giuliani? Well, recall that, Rudy Giuliani and Jenna Ellis were gallivanting around the country doing Donald Trump's dirty bidding. In fact, there they are criming together down in Georgia. They actually appeared before Georgia state legislators and were, spewing out Donald Trump's nonsense about election interference. Look at that. That's Rudy and Jenna's excellent adventure. And of course, Rudy Giuliani and Jenna Ellis were indicted in Georgia as two of the RICO co-conspirators, criminal associates of Donald Trump. And Jenna Ellis flipped in Georgia as well. And in Georgia, she pleaded guilty to her crimes and agreed to cooperate against Rudy and Trump and the other remaining co-defendants. And now she's gone and done it again. Like I say, maybe she's actually seen the light. I dealt with countless cooperating witnesses in my 30 years as a prosecutor, and I always wanted to believe that, maybe the defendants had had a change of heart. Maybe they turned a corner in their own lives, and they decided that the conduct that landed them as a charged defendant, sitting often, in a locked interview room if they had been brought over from the jail where they were being held pending trial, or maybe in an office conference room if they were on release pending trial, as Jenna Ellis was, the decisions they made in their lives that brought them to that point where they're sitting across the table with their lawyer, across the table from a prosecutor, an FBI agent, a state detective or investigator, maybe they decided that how they chose to live their lives to that point hadn't worked out so good for them. And I always urged those folks who were considering cooperating, make a change in your life, turn a corner, try to make right everything that you made so wrong when you were in the life, when you were committing these crimes with and for the benefit of the Donald Trumps of the world. Make a change. You'll feel better about it, and you'll actually do some good for your community rather than committing crimes and tearing it down and, trying to negate the expressed will of your fellow American voters. And sometimes those aspiring cooperating witnesses decided to make a change and tried to make right what they did that was so very wrong that got them charged, got them indicted. And let's hope Jenna Ellis has seen the light. She's not just playing games to cut her losses, but she's actually seen the light, and she's now pursuing another path, the path of accountability, right? Not only for what she has done, but trying to hold others accountable for trying to end our democracy, overturn the results of a presidential election. Let's hope that is where Jenna Ellis has landed, that she now has come to believe that justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.